Welcome to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. I'm your host, Chris Spear. So here we're going to talk about gear, grit, and the kind of stories you only get around a fire. It's all about learning, adapting, and keeping your faith strong. So whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just looking to unplug and reconnect, you're in the right place. So pull up a chair by the fire and let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast, and I am coming to you from underneath the tarp of Camp What the Heck. And it is a very nice November afternoon. Not hot. Well, not too hot. Not cold. I got a fire rolling. You might see some smoke if you're watching the video. And it is about 3-ish in the afternoon, and time has changed. So about an hour and a half from now, it'll start getting dark. And it is just turning into a beautiful time of year. And I'm telling you right now, this past weekend, I know I didn't do a podcast on Monday because I've been burning the candle at both ends. I deeply apologize about that. I was getting ready for a street fair, and the street fair has come and has gone. And now I know what to expect. You know, sometimes you don't know what to expect on your first time around. And now I do. Not to mention selling the books and coffee and meals, fire kits, fire plugs. I also did freeze-dried candy. So, that stole a lot of the joy from the primitive camping stuff, but I still got to meet a lot of interesting individuals. I got to meet a lot of people, and I still have the smell of blooming onions or chicken on a stick running through my nose a week later. Man, that stuff was so good. I'll tell you what, I ate 2 chicken on the sticks and a blooming onions in one day. But that fair is in the books, and I learned a lot. Like I was saying, I had all the primitive camping rations, coffee, everything out there. I had individuals come up and start conversations that had been listening to me for a little while, had been following the website for a while. I got to see friends that I haven't seen in 20 years or more. It was great making those reconnections and making those connections. It was great being able to network, get out and shake some hands and just have conversations just like we do here on the podcast. Just have some good conversation with some good individuals and then go about our business. You know, I met so many folks, and one fella, he told me he found me and he came just to get the copy of the book. He came just to get a copy of the book. So, you know, that kind of stuff right there means the world to me. It really does, because it's just, it shows that what I'm doing here, people find value in it. And I do appreciate you guys. I really do, more than you know. So I probably ate too much, which I know I did. I had too many of those onion petals, you know, the blooming onions like you get it like Outback or whatnot. I had too much fair food. And you think you're just going to go sell a couple of meals or some coffee or whatnot, and then you end up standing there and talking to some people, and, you know, by the end of the day, your hips are killing you from standing up for 14 hours. But it's like what we're going to be talking about today a little bit later. It makes it all worth it. It reminds me that what I'm doing here, this community that we, and I'm talking to you as the listener and all the members of the website, that this little community that we're building is growing. And it's something that is real. You know, Facebook is like 7.3 thousand followers on the group, you know, and you look at other groups and it's really not that big, but you know what? There's more closely knit. Now, it could actually have a little bit more folks get involved in the conversation, but we do have a pretty good group of individuals getting in there routinely and giving conversation and stuff like that. So if you were one of the folks that stopped by, if you were one of the individuals that we got to enjoy having conversation and shake some hands, and I want to say thank you. And I may have been tired and I left the fair looking for something to eat besides fair food, but I wasn't tired of you guys at all. I had some great conversations. Now, this afternoon, as I sit here by the fire and underneath this tarp right here at the good old camp, what the heck, I want to talk about something small. Something that it changes everything if you understand it correctly, if you understand it right. Fire is small, but it's a big deal. And as you see the smoke blowing through here, this past Friday's blog post on the website. So there's one more reason for you to sign up for the website. It's free. You can come look and everything and read the blogs, but everything is going to be interconnected, from the podcast to the blog post to the store. Everything's interconnected, and it's all going to be a primitive camping environment, I should say. That Friday's blog post was about starting fire with a bow drill. And here in just a second, I'm going to read an excerpt of page 150 in the book Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, which is talking about the bow drill. Now, one of the questions that rises all the time, rises or arises? Is it arise or rise? Anyway, back to you, Bob. So anyway, the bow drill, one of the questions that comes up all the time, there we go, that's a little better, comes up instead of rises. But one of the questions that comes up is the fact that the bow drill, is it still a viable option today? Is the bow drill just a vintage way of starting fire? Is it something that a lot of survival and bushcraft courses throughout the country all teach just because it has nostalgia to it? That's the word I was looking for. It's nostalgic, vintage, old school, all these powerful words that meant a long time ago. Is the bow drill still viable? And I guess let me read the actual text from the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book. And on page 150, it says, typically, when people think about starting a fire with natural materials, they picture rubbing two sticks together. I know when I was a kid, I sat there with two sticks and I rubbed them back and forth on each other. And I never got my fire. So whether they know it or not, the method that they're thinking about is known as the bow drill. This method has been used since man's earliest ventures in making fire, and it remains a viable option today. So that answers that question, and it's written right here in the beautiful Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book. So let's continue. Let's continue on in the next paragraph. Once you know how to put together a bow drill set, a bit of practice, believe me, it takes some practice, will allow you to start a friction fire in just a few minutes, believe it or not. So steel is not as easy as some people may make it look. I have filmed all my failures and successes, and to be transparent, I was utterly exhausted after starting my first bow drill fire. Even though I managed to make a fire with the bow drill, my technique was incorrect. And that's the thing. The bow drill requires proper technique and a fair amount of patience. You cannot rush the process. We're going to stop right there. And that was the first two paragraphs of page 150, the bow drill, right here in the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book. And I just hit the microphone with the book. So, and there we go, right there. And the podcast, which is reflecting the actual Friday's actual blog post, was all about bow drill. And whenever I said in here, I filmed my techniques or my failures and my successes, I filmed my failures and I filmed my successes. And you can watch those videos on the website, on the blog post. Now I have one that is me showing you how to do it step by step, and one where I was just doing it and filming it and nothing was said till the end of the video. Now, those were posted on my Spirit Outdoors channel, but these videos are extremely viable options to help you in your bow drill journey if that's what you wish to do. So this process of using a bow drill to start a fire, and we've talked about it before here on this podcast, and if you've ever done it the old school way, you know it's not just about making heat. It's not just about making heat. It's about patience. It's about the process, and it's about persistence. This method right here will help you really work on some issues in your life if that is what you need help on working on. So you start with the spindle and the hearth board. Now, you're hunched over, you're sweating, your hands are burning before anything ever happens, and you don't have any kind of instant spark, and you have no lighter. It's just you, friction, and the sound of wood working against wood. I wish I should add sound effects to this podcast. Then finally, you see a wisp of smoke. You have a tiny ember, and it's forming in that dust. Now, that dust is, you're going to treat that like gold. You're going to treat it like something valuable. And you lift it into your tinder bundle, and then you blow it. You transfer it into your tinder bundle, and then you blow it into flames. Not too hard at first. The more smoke you get, the more air it needs, and just enough as it grows. And that's the first lesson fire ever taught me. You don't force it. You don't force it. You cannot force it. You have to nurture it. You have to tend to it. You have to be there for it. You have to treat it like it is an infant child. It is always hungry, and you always have to feed it. But you have to nurture it in order for it to grow. And if you rush it, you blow it out. If you neglect it, it's going to die. But with steady breath and steady patience, it turns into a heat source, a light source, a flame. And from that flame, you build. You're going to add your kindling. You're going to add your small sticks, and then eventually your fuel, your logs. And before long, you're standing beside a fire that you can cook on. You can boil some water to add to your primitive camping rations. You could dry some clothes by it, and you can light up your night. That's what I love about primitive camping. That's what I love about camping in general. It don't even have to be primitive. It's just start a fire with a big lighter. Yes, you can do that. You can do that. You can use a big lighter to start a fire. Camping keeps teaching you that life works in the same way. And it really does. Every good thing starts small. Faith, your discipline, hope, all of them start like an ember. And you just have to feed them right. You just have to feed them correctly. So that brought me to, while I was writing that blog post, I got an email, and I guess let me explain it. That truth of the fire really hit me. I got an email from a listener that he said he stumbled across the podcast about a month ago. He's got 3 boys, and getting them outside again has helped their family reconnect. A couple of kids have some health issues. So camping's been a way to slow down, breathe, and find something simple they can enjoy together. So he wrote, and this is quotes, I'm going to share a little bit of what he actually wrote, that I've learned so much listening to you at work. You talk about faith without pushing it. And hearing that helped me find my way back. And I'll be honest, I had to sit down after I read that, and it resonated with me, because sometimes when you're out here underneath the tarp in the middle of nowhere, you start to wonder if what you're saying is mattering, if it really matters. You start to wonder if what you're doing has purpose. And then God sends you a little ember just like this, that it's a reminder that the flame is still spreading. The flame's still there. He told me he'd been digging out his old military gear, and he and his boys were planning their first camping trip together. His kids are already listening with him to the podcast. They're walking through some pretty hard stuff. I mean, this individual is really walking through some tough stuff, and I don't want to divulge what they're going through. I don't want to throw it out there and what he told me, but they're walking through some things. Yet his letter wasn't about struggle. It was about hope. What he said, he was still being thankful. It was about choosing to build a fire when the rain keeps coming. And if you ever built a fire in the rain, sometimes it can be very difficult. You have to nurture that fire. You have to protect the fire. You have to keep it from being smothered in the water. You have to keep the raindrops out of it. Because sometimes faith isn't about shouting from the rooftops. It's not about getting out there and yelling the loudest of, what you believe to somebody else, trying to shove your beliefs down somebody else's throat. It's about quietly keeping your fire going when the wind's blowing sideways. That's exactly what it's about. I've had some opposite end comments with individuals on Facebook that, man, as soon as you start mixing God and outdoors, I'm out. And, I'm not trying to push everything on people. I'm just being honest. I'm just doing what I do. And if something I do offends you, I apologize that you got offended, but I'm not apologizing for what I've done. So if that makes sense to you, because I'm not going to make apologies for what I do. It's not going to happen. So sitting underneath this tarp this afternoon and, reflecting on it after the street fair this week, I realized how much that story mirrors my walk with God faith is like a fire. It starts with a spark. And maybe you heard something. Maybe you heard somebody talk about something online. Maybe you watched a video. Maybe you heard a sermon, a conversation, a single moment that hits just right. But it won't stay lit if you don't tend it. And you hear all kinds of metaphors about the fire. Don't let the fire die. Don't let the flame burn out. Stuff like that. It's all the same. It's like it's your faith. You have to feed it. You have to read scripture, even when you're tired. You have to pray, even when you don't feel like it. You have to surround yourself with folks and people who bring warmth instead of the cold. Because fire spreads both ways. If you sit too long around cold hearts, yours will grow cold too. If you sit around negative people for too long, yours will grow negative as well. When a fire starts to die, it doesn't go out all at once. And this is the part that is so, so true. And it doesn't matter, faith journey, not faith journey, camping journey. It doesn't matter where you're at in life, what you're going through. When the fire starts to die, it don't go out at once. It fades slowly. The coals start getting dim. The smoke thins, and if you're not paying attention, you'll look over and realize that all that's left is a little bit of ash. But if you catch it early enough, and sometimes, like in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, you're trying to get that fire going because you're cold for the first hour of 6 o'clock, you waking up and you getting out of bed and the sun's just coming up and it's cold and you're shivering and you need a fire now. That's what I'm talking about. You find ashes up underneath there. You find some coals inside that ash. But if you catch it early enough, if you stir the coals, you blow on it, add a little bit of wood, a little bit of kindling, it comes back to life. And that's how faith works. It's not about never running low. It's about knowing how to tend it when you do. And so that's going to bring me to the verse for this week. And that's going to be 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. Now, there's two different variations of this. The ESV is going to say, for this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. Now that's the ESV version. I use the New King James. Paul wrote to Timothy, and Timothy, if you don't know anything about it, if you're listening to this for the first time, is a young man who was tired, and maybe he was a little scared to keep going. He was a little scared of what was happening. He was being coached by Paul, and Paul didn't say start a new fire. He didn't tell Timothy to start a new fire. He told Timothy, hey Timothy. He told Timothy, fan into flame the one you already have. What that means to us is that our spark is still there. We still have a coal. We still have an ember. Sometime our fire does dim and it goes down, and it goes through neglect, through people, getting discouraged. Our flames can die down just like that campfire. And Paul is saying, fan into flames the one you already have. In other words, bring it back to life. That means your spark is still alive. It may be buried under a few ashes. It may look small right now, but it is not gone. You just need to breathe on it again. Maybe that's what a little bit of prayer Maybe that's stepping outside to feel the wind and talk to God in nature. Maybe it's helping somebody else light their fire, fan their fire into flames, being a mentor. Chris, he started a whole program. Me and him became friends. He contacted me to see if he could use the book as the textbook for his outdoor boys, his wilderness boys, up there in Illinois. And he started a program with his young men up there. And I really wholeheartedly believe that it is doing something for these kids. It's doing something. He's fanning these flames. He's fanning these coals into flames, these embers into flames. So fear tells you that your fire is going out. But God says, no, I gave you the power, love, and self-control. Those are the tools you stir your coals. You may hear some dogs barking in the background. They have a dog training facility about 100,000 yards away from here. So if your flame's low, don't walk away from the fire pit. Kneel down beside it, fan it, feed it, because the same God who lit the fire the first time is still sitting there beside you, waiting for you to try again. Don't give up. So this evening, tonight, this week, and I know today's Monday, you're listening to this podcast on the Monday, but as you head into the whole week here, remember that the fire that you build out here in the woods isn't just about warmth and cooking supper. It's practice. Get out there and practice with the bow drill. Start making your parts for the bow drill. Start using the bow drill and do some practice with it. It's a mirror for your soul. Everything that you do is a mirror. Learn to build it right. Learn to feed it slow. Protect it when the wind picks up. And most of all, share it, because somebody out there is cold. And your flame might be what brings them back to life. Thanks for sitting around the fire with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, if it helped you feel a little bit more prepared, or it even stirred your faith a tiny bit, go ahead and share it with someone else who might need it as well. We don't go camping to run away from life. We come out here to slow down and to recharge. So grab another log, throw it on the fire, and remember this: in all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I'll see you next time. God bless you.